and then at last I came in sight of an old house. It had once been a comfortable colonial mansion from the last century, but now it gave the impression of dreariness and neglect, poverty and ruin. The barn and outbuildings were leaning this way and that, mossy and warped. Yet, I noticed that the front yard had been carefully tended with blooming roses and clipped boxwood. I went to the side door and gave a knock. Some time elapsed, and then the door opened slowly, and a middle-aged woman stood before me. I was instantly drawn to her. The blooming garden was hers, and she was very poor. But a curious hardness drew her face, even as her sweet and womanly eyes watched me. I went to sleep, but it was not a sound sleep. I heard soft footsteps on the stairs, and someone stopped outside my open door as if to listen. And then the gray, shadowy figure of the old man stood within, and his eyes peered about the room. The bed curtains hid me from his view at first, but as he took a step forward, he saw me lying asleep. He bent over me until I felt my hair stir with his breath. One day, a stranger was seen making way through the village. He was tall and had just passed middle age. He was vigorous and well-made, but there was an unusual pallor about his face and his hands, a grayish look. His clothes were somewhat peculiar, as if they had been made in another country, and the color of them and his hair was just a little darker than his face and hands. Some observed that this gray man's eyes had a strange faded look, but that they could flash and be coal-black in a moment of rage. Everyone who saw him wondered who he was. The dwelling place was left to the sunshine and to the rain and to the birds that built their nest under the eaves and in the chimney. Sometimes a strolling company of country boys would find themselves near the house on a holiday afternoon. But the more dilapidated the small structure became, the more they became convinced that some uncanny existence possessed this lonely place. The moon had risen, and Cousin Agnes gave me leave to go into the garden for a while. I wandered about, exploring different paths, some of which were arched over with tall lilacs and arbors. Suddenly, I became afraid to be there all alone. All the tall bushes took strange shapes and seemed to come alive. The thorn from a straying branch of a rosebush caught my sleeve maliciously as I turned to hurry away. And then I caught sight of someone in the path just before me. It was Lady Fairy.